What else have we missed? Buried not just beneath soil and ice, but beneath our assumptions. The deeper we search, the more we realize that human memory is long, but fragile. Knowledge can be passed for millennia in oral traditions, but it can also be erased in a moment by floods, fire, or forgetting. Civilizations do not always leave behind stone monuments or written languages. Sometimes all they leave is silence, and yet some traces persist. Consider the peculiar case of ancient knowledge embedded in mythological metaphors, astronomical alignments hidden in fables, encoded calendars and epics. For example, in the Mahabharata and Ramayana, ancient Indian texts that are often regarded as myth, the descriptions of celestial events, planetary alignments, and eclipses have been studied by astronomers. Remarkably, when matched with sky mapping software, some of these events appear to correspond with real astronomical phenomena from over 10,000 years ago. If these epics are not entirely fictional, could they be retellings of much older histories, recast in metaphor and preserved in poetry? Or take the Aboriginal Australians, whose stories speak of coastlines and landscapes that have long since disappeared beneath the sea. These oral histories, once dismissed as fantasy, have been supported by modern geology. In many cases, the stories are geographically accurate, describing landscapes that existed over 12,000 years ago. How could these stories survive unless someone saw those lands with their own eyes? This suggests a continuity of memory, of civilization, even if we don't yet understand the form it took. We must also ask, what is civilization? Is it only writing, cities, metal tools, and agriculture? Or can civilization take on different forms, ones we have yet to recognize? Imagine a seafaring people, literate not in ink but in oral codes, builders not of skyscrapers but of astronomical observatories, traders of stars and stories, not gold and silver. Could they have lived, thrived, and vanished, leaving behind clues we do not yet recognize as their legacy? In Polynesia, the ancient navigators known as wayfinders crossed thousands of miles of open ocean without maps, compasses, or written language. They used the stars, wave patterns, bird behavior, and even cloud shapes to guide them. This knowledge was passed orally and through training, ephemeral yet precise. If this navigational genius had emerged in a pre-Ice Age culture, would we even recognize its remnants today? In Central Africa, the Dogon people of Mali hold ancient knowledge of Sirius B, a white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye, and only confirmed by modern telescopes in the 20th century. The Dogon say this knowledge was passed down from their ancestors, who were taught by beings from the sky. Whether you interpret this literally or symbolically, the presence of such advanced astronomical knowledge in an isolated tribal group raises profound questions. How did they know? And again, we return to the stars, because everywhere we look, in Egypt, Mexico, Cambodia, Japan, we see an ancient fascination with the heavens. It's as if the people of the past were trying to tell us something, not just about their beliefs, but about time, about cycles, about the rise and fall not just of rulers, but of epochs. What if they were warning us? Consider the ancient calendars, Mayan, Sumerian, Vedic, many of which track vast periods of time, spanning tens of thousands of years. The Mayan long count calendar, for instance, covers a cycle of over 5,000 years and is only one part of a much larger system tracking multiple world ages. The Vedic yugas span millions of years. Why would early cultures, supposedly primitive, construct systems to measure epochs on a geological or cosmic scale? Unless they had a reason. Unless they had already seen what we are only beginning to suspect, that humanity does not march upward in a straight line, but rises, collapses, and rises again. Like waves, like seasons, like breath. If that is true, then the Ice Age might not be a dividing line between primitive and civilized, but between one age of civilization and another. And the flood myths, ubiquitous, shared across continents, begin to make more sense. What if they described the end of that earlier world, a time when coastlines drowned, mountains shook, and fire fell from the sky? Geological evidence supports the possibility. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis continues to gain attention. Proponents argue that around 12,800 years ago, Earth was struck by fragments of a disintegrating comet, causing massive fires, rapid melting of ice sheets, and devastating floods. Nanodiamonds, microspherules, and soot layers found at multiple sites suggest high-temperature impacts and widespread destruction. Critics remain skeptical, but the evidence is growing. And if it is proven true, it would represent one of the most significant extinction events in human history, not just for animals like mammoths and saber-toothed cats, but possibly for advanced human cultures too. Imagine being a member of that lost civilization, watching the sky turn red, seeing the oceans rise, losing your cities, your records, your history, all in a matter of days. Would your descendants remember what came before? Would they try to preserve that knowledge in stone and story? Perhaps that's what the ancient monuments are. Not temples, not tombs, but messages. Messages to the future, to us. Remember, and they say, we were here, we built, we fell, learn from our story, and now we are finally beginning to listen. In Turkey, new excavations at Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe are revealing not just isolated sites, but an entire network of ancient settlements, far older than any previously known. These sites suggest a coordinated effort across vast regions with shared architectural styles and possibly even shared belief systems. Who coordinated this? Why did they choose to bury their temples, intentionally sealing them as if for preservation? Were they expecting something? The pattern is haunting. Time and again, we find clues not just of knowledge, but of forewarning. The Hopi people of North America speak of previous worlds destroyed by fire and flood and say we are now living in the fourth world. The Mayans believed we are in the fifth sun. In both traditions, the previous worlds ended catastrophically, often because humanity lost its balance with nature and spirit. Even the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, often seen as a tale of hubris, could be reinterpreted. What if it reflects the memory of a time when humanity was united, advanced, and fell not because they tried to reach heaven, but because they forgot where they came from? The more we learn, the more we realize that ancient myths are not childish superstitions, but encoded records. Metaphors for truths too large, too painful, or too sacred to write plainly. But will we listen in time? Today, our world faces rising seas, melting ice, growing climate instability, and the threat of cosmic impacts. Satellites watch the skies, governments simulate asteroid collisions, and climatologists warn of tipping points. The same forces that ended the last world age are still with us. And yet, unlike the lost civilization, we have their warnings. We have their messages, etched in stone, written in stars, whispered through stories. If we ignore them, what excuse will we have? We stand at the edge of knowledge and ignorance, of memory and myth, of past and future. The lost civilization before the Ice Age may not be lost forever. It may live on in us, in our curiosity, our search for truth, and our desire to reconnect with a deeper past. This is not just about rewriting history, it's about reclaiming identity, understanding who we truly are. Because if we are not the first, if humanity has done this before, then perhaps we can learn from their greatness, not just their downfall. Perhaps their dream did not die in flood or fire. Perhaps it waits for us to rediscover it and carry it forward.